So I am going to be talking about my April wrap-up. So I read a total of 8 books this month. I DNF'd 3 books, but I'll be talking about 4, because some of my other books I did for other videos. Like if you want to watch my what's it called again? Mercy Thompson. If you want to watch my Mercy Thompson vlog, I have that posted. I had posted a DNF or low rated for April. I always post those on my Patreon. Again, my Patreon is free. You don't have to pay for Patreon in order to see my extra videos. That you can find on my Patreon. And I also did a travel vlog this month because I went to Vegas for my trip. So if you want to watch that, that is also on my Patreon. So let me see. So the first book I'll talk about that I read, this was toward the end of March, where I already did my video for the month. A lot of times that usually happens, like I try to film at least a few days before the month ends, so that way I can get my video out at the end of the month. So sometimes, I'll get a book done like right on the edge of like the last month. So this one here I read was Stacy Reid. This was Midnight Rendezvous. I gave this one 4 stars. So we had the characters of Penelope Dodge and Alexander Sutton. He was the Earl of Bainbridge. So there's content warning in here. There is a time jump. I know there's some people who don't like time jumps. It's just one time jump, so it's not that bad. There's BDSM in here, and there's also voyeurism. So Penny first meets Alexander up in a tree, hiding from her brother. Her brother, who is making out with a woman in the garden, the courtyard garden of an estate. So this is why she's kind of hiding from him. So Alexander helps her up the tree. So their sexual chemistry is immediate, and weeks later she finds out she will be married off to a duke because her family is in dire need of money. So Penny, feeling desperate at her situation, flees her house and meets with Alexander at a masquerade. He takes her virginity in a library and asks her to marry him, but she tells him that she is to be married to the Duke of Merrick. So feeling angry and heartbroken, he turns to bare knuckle boxing to pay off his estate debts. Now this is like, I felt bad for him a lot because the estate debts were not his debts. They were former family's debts. It's like, this is the thing I hate about different things when it comes to like credit cards, for example. I think there's a way of like, you can have like insurance to where it would cover all the debts of like when you die and stuff like that. My grandmother had died owing credit cards, credit card companies. So my Uncle Eric had tried to negotiate with the credit card companies. There was this one credit card company that were adamant. They were like, nope, we're not going to take a deal. We want it all paid off. And he was like, you're going to wait then. And what happened? Statute of limitations ran out. They weren't able to get any money after that because the statute of limitations ran out for those fuckers. So no, I don't feel sorry for credit card companies because they get rescued by the government. So they can go and suck a dick. So I felt sorry for him because it's like, it was his family's debt, So it's like, why should he have to be responsible for his past family's debt? It's ridiculous. So he, like I said, turns to bare knuckle boxing to kind of help pay off his debts. And he's heartbroken because he fell in love with her. He loves her, but now her family wants her to marry this duke who obviously has money, and they don't want her to marry the earl who is penniless, you know, because her family themselves are in debt, you know. So a year goes by and Penny still thinks about her night with Alexander and is dreading that her courtship with the Duke is getting closer for him asking for her hand. She's dreading this because the Duke is, I think, this old dude, and it's like, man, why are you asking, why you want to get married to a young lady? And like, you're past your prime, man. It's the same thing with like, they'd always say like, oh, well, ladies that are on the shelf. And I'm like, that motherfucker is on the shelf that he's got like, you know, he's got cobwebs and shit that are on top of him. I mean, bleh, you know? So I'm like, ain't that a bitch, you know? Where I'm like, this old fuck is trying to marry this young 20-something-year-old young lady, you know? And I'm like, can you even get it up anymore, old man? I'm just, ugh, you know? So, it's getting closer to like, you know, when he's going to probably ask her to marry him. And I was like, ooh, you know, yeah, I'd jump off a bridge. Honestly, I would. I'd be like, no, no, no. Meanwhile, Penny and Alexander become entangled together again, you know, and he shows her the things he likes to do with his lovers, you know, things like that, exposing her to the world of Aphrodite. It's a pleasure estate that he and his friends often go to. It's basically where they have, you know, escorts, I'd say, you know, and that's being nice, you know, escorts, you know, and all that stuff. So I said, I enjoyed the angst in this book. I said, you could see how much Alexander and Penny love and wanted to be with each other. But what really frustrated me was Penny allowing her stupid father and mother dictating her life and pushing her to marry the Duke. I said, also Penny running to Alexander again and again, showing she cares and loves him, but then the next day breaking Alexander's heart again and again. I said, I felt badly for him. And that was the thing. It's like, you know, with her, I got a little frustrated. That's why I ultimately gave it a 4-star, because I got a little frustrated with the heroine, because it's like, you keep running to Alexander. He's showing you that he loves you and wants to be with you, but you're like, oh no, I have to go and like follow with my mother and father. And it's like, man, fuck them, you know, like they're going to marry you off to this old creepy dude. And it's like, nah, fuck that. Just go to Scotland, go to Gretna Green, you know, go get married, you know? So yeah, to me, I was like, her, you know, like, oh, I need to like, you know, I need to be the one who makes the sacrifice. And it's like, really? So yeah, she frustrated me a bit, but I still like the story. It still was a good story. I liked Alexander a lot, you know, because you could tell he was, you know, determined to like, very determined to like, to pay off his family's debt, to build up his estate, and kind of like get himself like, you know, back to where he needs to be. So I did like his determination, because he was like, well, I'm going to go with whatever I need to get myself, you know, back to where you're not in debt. And of course, you know, a man who's a title and all that stuff, an earl, you're really not supposed to bare knuckle box and all that stuff. It's kind of like, it's frowned upon in society. But, you know, fuck that. You know, the dude was like doing his best to, you know, get his family estate and all that stuff. Because when, you know, when it comes to titled people, you know, dukes, earls, and all that stuff, they do have employees. They have people who are working for them. You know, and also like if they own land, they're farmers who are tending the land and all that stuff. So it's like you got to pay those people too, you know. So you have other responsibilities. So it was good. I liked it. But yeah, the heroine did frustrate me at times, you know. So the next book I ended up reading, this is Claire Kent. This is Complicated, a novella. I love this one. This one was really good. So we have the characters of Victoria and Greg. So there's an age gap. The heroine is 31 and the hero is 43. I prefer age gaps around this. I don't like those age gaps where it's like the girl's 18 or 20 or 21, and I'm just like, I'm not really a big fan of those age gaps. Like, if I'm going to read an age gap where the guy's older, I would prefer, like, 25, 30, around there. I would prefer the heroine to be, rather than, 20 or 18. It's just, not a fan. So she was 31 and he was 43, and I'm like, there we go. That's what I would prefer. So this content warning, the hero has a 19-year-old daughter, so clearly he had a kid very young, because I mean, like, 43 and a 19-year-old daughter, that's young, like your early 20s when you're having your kid, So this was a quick and steamy novella between a librarian and a businessman. He owned like a grocery store chain or something like that. I said, I love this novella because Claire Kent always knows how to add heart to her stories. I said, when you get into these steamy novellas, they don't always have a lot of emotional depth to them, but this one packed a punch to my gut. I said, I only wish this was available in a physical copy. She only has it available through Kindle Unlimited. She also went by Zany Adams for a while. So it was like, I think she went by Zany Adams, and then she also did Noelle Adams, because she also goes by Noelle Adams. She has like a whole ton of books by Noelle Adams. And then she has Claire Kent. This one here, as I said, the heroine, she was a librarian, and there was some type of like event that happened where she ended up meeting the hero at this event, and they obviously had this attraction to each other, and so they started to put the P and V and all that stuff, and it's called complicated because they start to feel feelings for each other deeper than bow chicka wow wow, and then how she finds out that he has a daughter. The daughter goes to her library and basically calls her a nasty derogatory word, basically calling her a slut. And I'm like, excuse me, what's your problem, little girl? Like, she obviously wasn't a little girl, like teen, but still, it's like, I say little girl because I'm like, you're acting like a child. And so she had said something nasty to the heroine, and it's like, girl, your father's a grown-ass man, let him have, some, fun and all that stuff. You don't need to be nasty to this woman, especially because it's like, it's not like she's like some kind of like young girl that's like around her age. The woman's 31. Woman's 31. She's not old enough to have that girl, There's no way. So, to me, I was like, the daughter's attitude was very unnecessary, Because it's like, look, your dad is 43. Plenty of years of him, like, having some type of love life, And his former marriage, they really didn't, like, have much like intimacy, because I guess the wife really wasn't like, I'd say she probably was frigid, they didn't really get too intimate and all that stuff, and his wife ended up passing away. So it's like, let this man have some fun, let this man find love again. I thought the daughter was very unreasonable. So that was like the complication with the relationship. But otherwise, I really liked it a lot. I love that one. Because you could see like the heroine is like, look, I don't want to come between you and your daughter, And he's like, no, she's going to understand. Like, he really was like, getting smitten with her, But it was really sweet. It was such a sweet like novella. I really enjoyed that one a lot. Yeah. That was good. So I decided to go down the Noelle Adams rabbit hole because I've tried, like, there was another book I tried reading from her before, wasn't really feeling it, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like Noelle Adams, because she writes a little bit differently, I'd say, than her Claire Kent. Claire Kent's a little bit more, I'd say her books are a little more steamier with the Claire Kent name. Also, she decided to go down a little bit more of the post-apocalyptic kind of, you know, with her books, to where these ones here are all like pretty much contemporary romances and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure if I was gonna like her Noelle Adams name. But I really liked these books that I read. So this one here I ended up reading was Noelle Adams. This is Living with Her One Night Stand. This is part of the Loft series. I did not read the second book in the series because based on the first book, the couple in the first book annoyed me. So we have Jill and Lucas. This is a one-night stand turned into roommates. So Jill goes out one night for a blind date, and while she's at a bar waiting for her date to show up, she meets Lucas. Jill's date becomes a no-show, so Jill and Lucas decide to have a one-night stand. Like, he's in the town, like visiting the town and all that stuff. And so the next day, Jill meets her new roommate, and it's Lucas. So she already has a female roommate named Michelle and her boyfriend Steve. That's the couple I was annoyed with. Michelle and Steve throughout the whole novel would argue and fight with each other. And then so the second novel was supposed to be about Michelle and Steve, like obviously a second chance for them, because during the first book, Michelle broke up with Steve, you know? And so obviously it was like they ended up reconnecting in the second book. But I was like so annoyed with them throughout the book that I was like, I don't really want to read about the romance, you know? Like, I don't want to read about the romance. So I decided to skip over that book, you know? So now Jill finds out that Lucas is now going to be their roommate. So Steve had offered to let Lucas, his friend from college, to be a temporary roommate. Now they have to live around each other, you know, since they already banged, you know. Now they have to live around each other while trying to keep their attraction to each other at bay. So I said, I really enjoyed the story, but the only thing that did frustrate me a bit was Lucas. He has some past trauma, and it took until the end for him to finally open up to Jill about it. Yeah, he was very, like, shut down and didn't want to go and explain to her why he was the way he was, you know? So I said, I love how Noelle Adams, Claire Kent brings heart into these books. And so, yeah, his character, he dealt with a past trauma that really shook him. And he had said from then on, he didn't want to have like all this responsibility. Like, before he had this trauma happen to him, he was engaged to be married. He owned a house. He was working as like, I guess you could say like an accountant maybe, or I guess you'd say an accountant. It works with money, you know, knows how to like manage money, and, you know, how to set up a budget and all this different stuff. Like, you know, he knows all that stuff. So he was doing that. And then this trauma happened to him, which caused him to kind of like, I'd say like when you have something happen to you, you kind of almost have that like life flash before your eyes kind of thing. And it, you know, kind of like changes your perspective. So it caused him to like want to travel around, want to sleep around with girls. Like, he had broken off things with like his fiance. He sold his house. He moved away from like his family. He traveled a lot. So he didn't really want like any type of commitment, any type of like seriousness in his life, because he already dealt with like enough. But the more he's around Jill, the more he starts to feel things for her, more than what he's felt in a long time. And so it's basically like they're building up of this relationship and all that stuff, and him getting like scared, you know, him being scared about, you know, being with her permanently, you know. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really, really liked that one. That's why I ended up giving it 4, because I really, really enjoyed this one. The next one, oh man, I love this one. This one I loved. So this was the third book in that series of The Loft by Noelle Adams. So it's living with her fake fiance. Oh my God, I love this one. So I gave this one 6 stars. So we have the characters of Chloe and Brent. Now, Chloe was introduced in the first book. She was one of the roommates that had to move out temporarily because she had lost her job, and so she was trying to find another job. So she had to move back in with her parents until she can get another job. And so Chloe is back in the apartment again because she ended up finding a job, and the other couple had moved out. Jill and what was his name again? Lucas. Jill and Lucas had moved out. So now who was still living there was Michelle and Steve. And so Michelle and Steve obviously had gotten back together. So Chloe's living there, and there's a new roommate that moved in called Brent, and he's very shy, very like keeps to himself a lot, you know. So the trope is fake fiance. There's forced proximity in here. He's a virgin hero, and I love virgin heroes. That's one of my favorite tropes is like virgin heroes, because you always see like virgin heroines, or you know, you always see the virgin heroines, and so I'm like, it's because it gets boring after a while. So I'm like, I like when there's a virgin hero. Also, there was like sex lessons in here kind of thing, you know. Content warning, there's talk of a family member dying of cancer in here. So if you're really sensitive to that, you may want to avoid this book, or like tread lightly going into it, you know. So Chloe works for a marketing department at her local university doing graphic design, and she is a college student finishing up her coursework for her MFA degree in creative technologies. And she also lives with roommates in her apartment. Brent, her roommate, just recently moved in within the last, like, I'd say few months. So Chloe's mom tells her dying grandmother, her grandma goes by Mima is what Chloe calls her, that she has a fiance. So Chloe's mom tells the grandmother that Chloe has a fiance. So Chloe asks Brent if he can fake being her fiance until her Mima leaves town. So Brent has a crush on Chloe and is extremely shy around her. So when Chloe asks him, he tells her that he may not be the best person for the job, you know, because of him being so shy. So Chloe reassures him, and then he finally agrees. So while they're fake dating, Chloe finds out that Brent is a virgin. He's 25, but because of his extreme shyness, he hasn't gone all the way with a woman. He had a girlfriend for years, like during high school, and they ended up breaking up. But he says that they didn't, you know, the only thing they really did was kiss, because he says that, you know, she was saving herself for marriage, and so they realized that they weren't, you know, right for each other, and they ended up breaking up. So Chloe finds out that, you know, of course, he's a virgin. So as a way of thanking him for pretending to be her boyfriend, she tells Brent that she can help him with his virginity, you know, like help him pop his cherry and all that stuff, and help him with like sex lessons to have it to where he can impress other ladies, you know. So they say it will be just casual, but the more they're around each other and making out, the more feelings Chloe starts to feel for Brent. So I said, I loved this book so much. You can feel the yearning these two had for each other. Brent was so extremely sweet and shy around Chloe. He was half in love with her at the beginning of this book. So the more time he is around her and they start doing foreplay, the more his heart swelled, as well as other things. But I also loved how he thought of her. I said he thought she was attractive, of course, but he also saw more than just her body. I said this man was totally smitten with her. I said, as for Chloe, you could see that she lacked in confidence / self-esteem, and she didn't think that he would want her for more than just a bed partner. Obviously, she had some dudes in the past who didn't want more than just sex from her. And she had a mom who would put her down, you know, put down her hair, her body, the way she dressed. She would like critique her constantly. And I was like, that frustrated me with the mom. I said, I don't think the mom meant it in a malicious way, but it did still affect Chloe mentally. And I really wish her and her mom had a heart-to-heart in this book, so it would have been better for their relationship. Like, that was the only thing I'd say I disliked about the book. I would say, like, if I were to critique anything, I would say Claire Kent, Noelle Adams, did not go much into depth of, like, maybe finding some type of conclusion or a little bit of a happy for now type of relationship between her and her mother, like, I would have preferred if, like, they would have had more of a heart-to-heart, and Chloe, like, explaining, like, Mom, I don't like it when you constantly critique everything about me, like, it would have been better if she could have just confronted her mom and said, can you please stop doing that? I don't like it when you do that to me. And then have her mother, like, understand what she's doing is wrong. Like I said, I don't think the mom meant it in a mean way, but there comes a time where maybe you say something to your child that you mean it in a way to help them, but it ultimately just hurts their feelings. And it's like, you have to word it in a way to where you're not being nasty about it, So I really would have wished if they had a better relationship toward the end of the book, So I said, both of these characters, both Chloe and Brent, both needed that constant reassurance and praise for each other. I said once they got that confidence in themselves, they were able to explain their feelings towards each other. They definitely, like, throughout the book had these, like, insecurities, like, oh, well, he'll never want to be with me, like, more than this, and then him being so extremely shy. He's like, how do I say the words to her to express to her how I feel, that I love her, and, I want her more than just her pretty face and her body. I love her more than that, so he's like, how do I explain it to her, because it's so hard for him to get his words out sometimes, so I said, also, can I say I love shy heroes, and I wish more writers would write about heroes who have trouble verbally expressing themselves. I said, not everyone is an extrovert and can communicate well verbally. So it was a breath of fresh air seeing a hero not be this confident alpha male that gets promoted a lot in romance novels. I said, I want me some more nerdy introvert guys. And that's true. Like, I don't see that too often, where I see, like, these nerdy, shy introvert men, I don't see that too often in romance novels because I don't know, like, I think a lot of women, they like a more dominant man in romance novels, that type of thing. And I would say, like, I don't mind that, but it does get kind of played out after a while. Sometimes I like, excuse me. Sometimes I like the marshmallow. I like the marshmallow man, I like this man who's a cinema roll. I like this man who is like, he is a marshmallow on the inside, he's just has a gooey center because he is so sweet. And all he cares about is pleasing her, having her be with him, It's like a pride thing, It's pride. It's you feel better the more she's around you. She helps, like, bring up your confidence. That's the type of thing you want in a girlfriend. You want a woman who brings out the best in you. You want a woman who praises you and gives you compliments, like, women deserve that too, women deserve a man who will give them compliments and who will praise them and all that stuff. Whatever you do for him, they appreciate it, and then you do the same thing. The man does the same thing, that's what you need in a relationship. You need someone to reassure you, because sometimes, after a while, people can realize that, oh, wow, I haven't said it in a while that I appreciate what my boyfriend or my husband's doing for, for us, our relationship, us together, Because when you become a couple, it's a we, it's not I, you know? There's no I in team, you know? That's basically what it is. You become a couple, so it's like you're a team. You are now a team. So it's like your partners, your helpmates, you help each other, you know? It's so much better when you have someone in your life who's helping you, when you're not doing it all by yourself, you know? Because after a while, doing things by yourself gets exhausting. So they both needed that. They both needed like that constant reassurance and praise. And some people are that way. They need that constant reassurance and praise that what they're doing is the right thing, you know? So I did like the fact that you had both of these characters who did lack a bit of, you know, like confidence in themselves and not sure if like, is he going to want me for like permanent, or is he going to want to go and get someone smarter and prettier? And then he's got that, you know, insecurity where he's like, I'm so shy. I hate that I'm this way. I really want to be more confident and be more assertive and all that stuff. It takes a while. Like if you are that type of way, you know, to kind of like come out of your shell, it takes a while to kind of come out of your shell, because I used to be really shy in school, really shy, not saying anything. And the more I got older, the more I started to get confidence in myself and speak up for myself. You know, they like deep down, the only person who's going to stick up for yourself is yourself. You know, you have to rely on yourself first, you know, love yourself, protect yourself, you know, before anybody else can give you the same back, you know. So I did like it for these two where they kind of had to reassure themselves. I really love that one. I thought it was done really well for Noelle Adams. And so, yeah, I'm definitely going to read more of her in May. I'll definitely be reading more books. I had downloaded like how many of her books like onto my Kindle. I just recently bought that book too. I bought the physical version. The cover they show you for that book, it's not the same cover that is the physical version. It's a different version. But it's okay. I'm fine with that. You know, like there are certain covers that I'm just like I hate because they don't fit the story, you know? Like they don't hit the. But this one here, I was like, it's okay. You know, I thought it was fine. A cover needs to tell the story, basically. You know, you need a good cover story. But I know, like, some authors, like with her, she pretty much does her own covers, you know? She does her own covers. So, I'm like, to me, I'm like, that's good enough. You know, like, I know, like, there are indie authors who can't afford to pay all this money to have, you know, like an artist do their cover for them. So I'm like, if you can't afford it, the best thing you can do is go on like Canva or some other type of like free, or maybe you pay a yearly fee or whatever it is to design like these covers and all that stuff. And go from there. Like you do your best to like get yourself a nice cover and go from there, you know? But yeah, that's it for this one here. As for like TV and all that stuff, I've been continuing to watch, if nobody watched my previous, like my other secondary channel, I stopped filming over there. So I've been watching Buffy, rewatching Buffy. I'm on season 6 of Buffy. So I'm kind of like, you know, right now I'm like, I don't have that pressure to like, oh, I need to watch like all these episodes so I can go and do a video and all that stuff. So now I'm kind of like, you know, whenever I feel like watching it, I kind of go in and I'll watch like how many episodes and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm on season 6. I figured once I'm done with Buffy, I want to rewatch. I'm not sure if I want to rewatch Angel because I didn't always like the series. I would say like I might go into like the episodes when Spike arrived on Angel, and I might watch those episodes, but I don't think I give a shit about any of the other ones. I want to rewatch the Vampire Diaries, because I really like the Vampire Diaries. Some of my favorite, like, rewatching the Vampire Diaries will be, you know, I think it'll probably be maybe like the third time I've rewatched it, because I think I've watched the Vampire Diaries like at least twice for the series. I think it might be my third time watching the series, because I really like the Vampire Diaries. I loved Damon and Elena together. I love Damon and Elena. I did not like Stefan with Elena. No, I didn't like it. I like Damon and Elena, and oh my god, I loved Caroline with Klaus. Klaus, oh my god, when that man showed up and he was all over, like, the sexual chemistry between Klaus and Caroline, I was like, fuck yes. I never got into, like, that other series that he ended up, like, being on. What the hell was it called again? Started with an O. It was something the blank. I can't remember. But I'll have to find it and put it here. But yeah, like, I never got into that series. But man, I loved Caroline and Klaus. I loved that one. They had really good chemistry together. I loved his character because he was kind of like this evil bad guy, but it was like he was such a great hero, you know, like just like this anti-hero, helping her out constantly, even though he was like basically saying like, I hate you, and I'm like, oh no you don't, dude. And then he just got to a point where he was like, you know, oh, come be with me kind of thing. Oh yeah, I loved them two together. I think I loved them two together more than I liked Damon and Elena together. But yeah, I'm gonna rewatch the Vampire Diaries again, because I really liked that show. It was interesting. I'll say, like, when Elena left, like the actress, what's her name there? Nina Dobrev, I think it is. It's either Dobrev or Dobrev, something like that. When she left the show, I was like, oh man, they just made the show like so much worse. It was so stupid. And then she had come back like toward the end and all that stuff. But yeah, it was better like when she was on. The storylines were better, and then, you know, all that stuff. So yeah. So I'm gonna rewatch that and go from there. Yeah, that's it for this video here. What did you read in April that you enjoyed? Let me know down below. Do you like the Vampire Diaries? Do you like Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Let me know down below. You know, are you watching anything that's like reruns? Are you watching new shows? What new show are you watching? I heard things about The Last of Us, and I was like, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch The Last of Us because I heard I've heard all about it. So I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. So that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves, be kind to each other, and I'll see you all on the next video. All right, bye.